We are wanting to record this evening's webinar because we've got so many people that we are wanting to share with us in the excitement of the announcement of tonight's winners. Of course, the winners of the photo competition are going to be announced at the end of this session, and we have a number of really exciting speakers to be able to share with us their experiences and their journey around photography and their love of pollinators. So it's a fantastic evening. I'd like to first of all pay my honours and respects and acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging, the traditional owners in the land where I'm coming to you from tonight. I'm from southwest Victoria, and I'm from the area of the Goolagin people, so I pay my respects to the elders. And I'd like to pay my respects also to the elders and the traditional owners of the lands of all of the areas where you're coming to the webinar from this evening. We've got over 100 people joining us this evening, so it's been really fantastic to see such interest in this webinar. John McCaskill is from Rotarians for Bees, and I just want to acknowledge our partners for the evening, the sponsors for this webinar, Rotarians for Bees. Welcome to you first.
Thank you very much, Fiona, and thanks for the opportunity. All I really wanted to say was just I'm absolutely thrilled with the number of entries and the quality of the entries, and it's just so encouraging to see people taking the trouble to be part of this very exciting competition. And I'd hate to be one of the judges, to be quite honest. I think that they've got a really tough job. But so on behalf of Rotarians for Bees, I wanted to thank everybody that's participated. I want to congratulate those that are announced this evening, and thank you and Ween Bee Foundation for supporting us with this, and we're very proud to be associated with you. So welcome everybody, and I really look forward to the evening, and thanks again, Fiona.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, John. And you know, all of our sponsors are so important to us, and we've got a wonderful partnership with Rotarians for Bees. So I thank you for sponsoring this webinar this evening and for sponsoring the People's Choice Award, which was a bit of an extra. So thank you, John. I also want to acknowledge our sponsors, iWoohoo, who have provided the sponsorship for the main award, and also Beechworth Honey, who have also provided the sponsorship. And as latecomers to the party, we've also had Burt's Bees, who have provided a whole range of awards for honourable mentions. So we're going to be going through, once we hear from our photographic speakers, we're going to be hearing, we'll make the announcement at the end. So I also need to acknowledge and thank so much our judges. For the competition, we had over 670 entries. So it was a mammoth effort for our judges to be able to go through those, and a really difficult job to narrow it down to the winners that we'll be announcing a bit later on. So to start, I'm going to invite Marama Hopkins to come forward. Marama has been away from photography for some years, and I'm sure that she'll like to share with us a little bit about how she got back into photography and what inspired you to take it up again. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and the 3 photographs you're going to share. So each of our photographers will share 3 photos and tell a little bit about why they're so special. Thanks, Marama.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks so much for having me tonight. I feel really honoured to have been asked to participate in this webinar, particularly because, yeah, I'm relative newcomer to both digital photography and bee photography. I am lucky enough to live and work on Bundjalung country in far northeastern New South Wales. And I'm also lucky enough to be the custodian temporarily of a fantastic hectare of revegetated forest up there. And so I suppose, yeah, I didn't set out to be a bee photographer as such, but I suppose it's something that has captured my interest and excitement as I got into basically just documenting what the biodiversity looked like on my property once we moved there. And the enthusiasm has really been spurred on by the amazing social networks and networks of photographers, enthusiasts, naturalists, and the amazing bee experts who give their time freely on the wonderful groups like the Facebook groups where people can share their photos and have them identified really regularly and rapidly, and certain experts are on there sharing their expertise and knowledge and excitement as well. So that's really what spurred on my my interest in bee photography in particular. I guess I'll quickly show you the gear that I use. Like I said, I'm pretty new to digital photography. I picked myself up only a year or two ago, a mid-range DSLR. I guess it's a Canon 90D, and I shoot most of my bee photos with the macro lens. I've got a Canon EF 100mm macro lens on there for bee photography, and I haven't even got around to buying any decent lighting for it yet. And I use just the built-in flash at the moment, and a kind of homemade bodged up diffuser that out of a milk carton, a 2-litre milk carton with some tape around the edge that just fits over the lens there, and diffuses that built-in flash a little bit. So yeah, I guess that's an indication that yeah, anyone can get into bee photography. So I'll crack on and share my screen. The first photo that I've chosen is the species of bee is Alasioglossum leicartii. That somebody else kindly identified for me after I shared some of these photos on the socials. I guess this photo is the first time I felt like I was confident that the gear that I had purchased and my skills were going to be up to the task, I suppose, of taking some cracking bee shots. This bee is foraging on a Lobelia trigonocaulus, which is a little ground cover. It's it's only sort of maybe 20-25 centimeters high, and this bee and this sort of set of photos that I took to get this image really taught me about my camera gear first off, and about the importance of observing bee behaviour in order to get good bee shots. I suppose about the camera gear, I was still learning just what that sweet spot was for my lens. So I've put the info down the bottom there about what the settings that I used. But I think most lenses have a bit of a sweet spot in terms of aperture. When you're shooting macro, the depth of field is super narrow, and you can increase the aperture, but you lose a lot of detail. So I was finding out that around about f11 was the ideal spot for this particular lens. And I was also playing with how close I could get to those bees, make it fill up as much of the frame as possible to be able to get the good light on it and to get the detail that's in there. I mean, you can see the individual pollen grains and the hairs on that bee after it's been stuffing its face in those flowers. And in order to get that close to this particular bee, this one was really flighty, and maybe that's a characteristic of the species. But I had to, sort of watch it over time, learn what it did around the flowers, and I basically had to focus on this flower and hope that it came to this particular flower, because if it saw me move or it noticed me move, it was off. So yeah, basically there was just that time between the bee having its face fully in the flower and then backing out again, and that was the time to grab the shot. And this, like I said, this plant is really short. It's a little ground cover. I'm down there lying on the ground. There's mosquitoes biting me. Yeah, it's a bit of a labour of love at times. But yeah, I love this shot because it's giving me a bit of attitude, but it's also providing enough detail, I think, in the bee to be able to make a decent identification of it. So I think there's always that trade-off between a aesthetically pleasing shot and one where you get enough characters in the photo to be able to confidently identify it to species, which is what I set out to do, is document the biodiversity and put a name on everything that I saw. So I'm rapidly running out of time. I'll flick to the next photo. This one is Hemiriza meliceps. This is a different kind of bee. This particular photo and following this bee around has kind of taught me more about observing what's going on with flowering plants in my yard and in the patch of forest that I live in. This particular plant that I was foraging on is called Delabrea michiana, and it's not actually locally native to my property. And when I got to the property, I was pretty sure I was going to get rid of this plant. It's a North Queensland species. It doesn't belong in the Northern Rivers, so its days were numbered. Then one day I was walking around, noticed it just has masses of these flowers that are obviously packed with pollen. And it was just covered in 4 or 5 different species of bee, including this one, which turned out to be a not so common species. It excited a couple of the local bee experts, one of whom got in touch and said, "Hey, I haven't actually seen this bee before in person. Can I come and have a look at your bees?" And it was about making that connection about with the people who are working on the bees. So it was a human connection. It was about observing what was going on, what was flowering at the time, and kind of reassessing, I suppose, my Puritan approach to what I thought was going to be important in terms of the plants on my property. So obviously I couldn't get rid of this particular plant. And it's still standing and it's just about to burst into flower again. So yeah, bees are teaching me to observe what's flowering, what's just about to come up into flower, and I await every flowering of every species of plant with great anticipation that I've never had before. So that's super exciting. So yeah, both of those first 2 photos were taken with that flash and with that diffuser, I think, and as close as I could possibly get to the bee. One more, I guess, and it's a bit of a different approach. This photo is just, I guess, it's more about the feeling and the emotions that I get from seeing this photo. It's not a particularly good photo for identifying the species of bee or even the species of plant. It's a Leoproctus flavomaculatus on a flowering grey myrtle plant. It was a super sunny day. I probably didn't use the flash. I probably just flicked the camera to one of the semi-automatic modes, I think, and shot into the sun and hoped for the best. Probably just really playing around, and what I got out of it was just this feeling of being immersed in probably maybe what the bee is feeling on the day. It's just a summery, polleny, nectary mood, I guess, and I suppose that's what I'm still learning about bee photography is, am I setting out to take a technically great photo that can be reliably identified, or is it a mood or a feeling that I'm trying to capture with the photo? So that's always going to be a trade-off, I think. So that's already over my allotted time. It goes really quickly.
It does go quickly. And look, that's just such a lovely, it warms the heart. This is exactly what we wanted to do, to share people's love and passion for not just the photography, but the bees, the subject matter as well. We called this webinar Discovering Bees Through Photography. And I just wanted to make the point that the photo competition is about pollinators more generally, but this webinar was about bees more specifically. And the reason for that, Marama, you've shared so beautifully 3 very different bees. And we get so fascinated by the diversity, the breadth of the diversity of our native bees in particular, that most people just aren't aware of. And so, you know, that's something that we've been passionate about, trying to help raise awareness of that diversity and why it's so important to protect and preserve this diverse, wondrous wildlife of nature that we have. So that what you're doing with photography and what all of our photographers are doing is playing such an important part in sharing that fascination and that joy and that love of such wonderful subject matter.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thanks
much for sharing.
for having me.
That was that was terrific. That was terrific. And so don't go away. Well, you can go down now, but make sure you stay there. So I would encourage everyone, if you've got questions for Marama or any of our other speakers, to please use the Q&A box down below, and we'll make sure that we address all of those questions in our panel discussion at the end of the webinar. So please, any questions for Marama or any of the other panelists, please keep those questions coming through. So now I'm very pleased to introduce Jared Walker. Jared phoned me. I've only met Jared by phone. He phoned me and Zoom. He phoned me some months ago wanting to explore the opportunity of photographing the green carpenter bees on Kangaroo Island. So that's how we got to know each other. And we had numerous phone conversations. We haven't quite got to that photo shoot yet of those bees. But when we decided to run this webinar, I thought, what a wonderful person to invite to share some stories. Jared does some contract work with Australian Geographic, and particularly with photographing of insects, bees and other insects. He's from South Australia. And so, Jared, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and looking forward to you sharing your 3 favourite photos and the story and the journey for you.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Jared. I am a photographer here from the mid-north, so just about halfway in between the Barossa and Clare Valley. I've been photographing for about 10 years and just really love getting out into nature every now and then and taking a break from the computer and actually observing butterflies, bees, and all other pollinators that come along with sitting out in my garden. So we're on a big, beautiful farm out here, about 7,500 acres, and we reside on a property where our house is of about 18 acres. And my partner and I plant a lot of different flowers and native plants around here. We're trying to replant a lot of native plants that have been removed over a long period of time. And yeah, in doing that, I get the opportunity to go out and capture primarily blue-banded bees, are what appear in our garden every summer. And I'm excited to share some photos with you in a second. I'm actually going to share 2 photos tonight, but one is a before and after of how I edit my photos of a blue-banded bee going into a sunflower. But I just would like to quickly go over. I run with a Nikon Z6 II, and generally I have a 24 to 70 mil lens with a 2.8 f-stop. Hope everyone understands all those technical terms. Always feel free to shoot me a message if you want to learn more.
Or they can put the question in the chat too.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great idea. So on the right, hopefully everyone can see that. On the right, I've actually got my garden, which is not necessarily native plants in the garden, but last year, 2 years ago, we grew some sunflowers, and it was a very busy period of the year. So with Christmas and New Year's and it being summer and lots of events on, I kind of forgot that the sunflowers were planted in the front flower bed there that my partner had put in, and we'd put in around about 30 of them. And then one magical morning, we woke up and it was a beautiful day outside and they were all blooming. It was spectacular, actually. And I could just see these blue banded bees hovering around all the sunflowers. And so I only had my 70 to 200 mil lens, which is quite a large lens for capturing bees. And I went out there and I just snapped away. I had my settings quite high, so I was capturing lots of frames very quickly. And my f-stop, as you can see, is actually quite low in comparison to people who are using macro lenses. So it was about 10 o'clock during the day. As you can see on the left there, I just captured the perfect image of the bee just sneaking in. Now, one of my friends had seen the photos, and I'll show you the other one in a second, but one of my friends saw the photo and said, why don't you tip it so it looks like the bee's actually falling into the sunflower? And there you have it. So that was the picture. I'm just going to say, here we go. This is the original photo that I took. So as you can see, in comparison to when I was editing the photo, I've actually made it very contrasty and brought out those colors, quite saturated. I just think it adds a depth to the emotion of the image. So yeah, that was the first image that I selected. And then I have another image secondly, and that is quite up close. And again, I used my 70-200 mil, and it was on the same day actually as me capturing that other image. And it was really hot. It was about 40 degrees. I had a big hat on, a shirt on, and the sun was beaming down. And I was sitting outside watching the bees go around one of our native bushes that we have in there. I actually can't identify that. I apologize. And this took me a very, very long time to capture this photo. And I'm talking onwards of probably 4 to 5 hours. So I was sitting out there and I would take a break, go inside, have some water, had some food, go out there, try it again. And I was just getting so frustrated with the fact that I couldn't capture this bee. It might have been that I didn't have the right equipment at the time or whatever the situation might be, but I did eventually capture it. And I was just blown away with how beautiful and rich these bees actually are. And this image and the other image is what actually landed me my contract with Ozgeo when I presented my photos to them. And I'm just really grateful that I have the opportunity to shoot these photos out here in my garden and capture images like this. My biggest advice for anyone who's wanting to capture bees in particular is patience. It takes a lot of time to get it right. Don't expect to just go out there and the first snap you're going to get, it's going to work out fantastic. Photographers spend years and years and years perfecting their skill. And even I, every single day, go outside and would give it a go, and I might not ever get the same quality of photo that I have with these two other photos. But you just got to keep going and keep persevering until you get an image that you like. So yeah, that's really about it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jared, so much. So what we've heard so far, we've heard from Marama that it's the health risk of being bitten by mosquitoes, and then sunstroke, the risk from you, Jared, being out there in the sun with your big hat and the heat and getting dehydrated. So it's a risky business, this taking photos, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. It can definitely be testing on your patience, and when you're out there in the sun or it depends what time of day you're outside and you're taking photos. But for us generally here where we're located, the bees are out primarily in the morning to mid-afternoon, and then it's a little bit harder in the afternoon because it's quite hot. But obviously at the moment we're not really having that issue. It's just rain every single day. So I can't wait to we get a bit more warmer weather and I get to go out into the garden again and take some more photos.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, we're at the moment, being Australian Pollinator Week, we're trying to get out in the garden and do some counting insects and counting pollinators and seeing what's out there. But at the moment, the last few days here, it's been so wet. I'm not seeing anything. So it's certainly the frustration, isn't it? Well, thank you so much. So
yeah, definitely.
We'll invite you back in a while. Keep your questions coming through, everybody, for Jared and for our other participants. So I'm going to now ask Mirabai Nicholson-McKellar to come forward. Now, Mira was the the award winner. She won the gold medal for her bee photography at Appomondia in 2019 in Montreal. And I am very happy to say that I was there and I saw you win that gold. So that was a very, very exciting moment. Now, Mira is, I guess you'd say, part of the Flow team. You're a very important part of the Flow Hive team in that you were the person that actually took the video footage of their amazing crowdfunding campaign that was so successful in raising over $15 million for that company with that incredible Australian invention. So what an achievement. In talking with Mira, she said to me, Mira's one of the judges that we've had. So I thank you very much for the immense amount of time you spent trawling through all those 670 entries that we had. But you've said to me that you don't see yourself as much as a photographer, as much as a videographer. So you bring a different dimension to the story tonight. So please, really looking forward to hearing from you now. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, like, I mean, of course, I take photos as well. Essentially, you know, I came from a filmmaker and musical background and got involved helping my brother with his crazy invention, creating the Flow Hive Kickstarter campaign or crowdfunding campaign. And so through that process, I already was interested in macro, had a macro lens, but hadn't done too much around that. At the time I was using a Canon and a macro lens, but yeah, I just got really into bees. Obviously, I spent years filming them and we made the video. And actually one of the pivotal points was that the iPhone 6 or the 6S came out and it had these slow motion settings. And I got this little clip-on macro lens, and actually that, you know, while I still do use some Sony cameras for certain shots, and some of my photography, I'm completely besotted by my iPhone and my macro lens because it's so adaptable and essentially I'm completely and utterly bee obsessed. So no one will come to the park with me anymore in spring because I will just end up in the bushes filming bees for hours on my phone and not talking to my family. So they all kind of tease me now. But yeah, so again, also I've become a beekeeper. So I'm actually keeping about 40 hives now, and I've started doing some queen rearing. So I'm really fascinated with honeybees, but really more than that, like just the pollinators and all the incredible insects all around the world. I spent some time living in Berlin, so I got to check out some really cool bees. So look, I couldn't pick. I've got a few little videos of slow-mo and a few photos. So I might just start with the slow motion video. And this is an example of what I guess this is the stuff that I really, really love. And this is my passion. And you know, I'll open a beehive and sit on the ground for 4 hours filming. Maybe you can let me know if this is working.
Yep, looks good.
So that's just a little quick 30 seconds of some of my favorite shots, and you can see that montage at the end. I'd say 80% of that was shot over a few summers in Berlin.
This is you cheating, isn't it? Because I said 3 photos and you said you couldn't narrow it to 3.
Well, they're all videos actually. As I actually wanted to start with this, I wanted to show this photo because this for me was taken with an iPhone 6S and a little Olo clip-on lens in an afternoon beekeeping session, and it's still one of my favorite images that I've ever captured. Even though it's not perfect, it's not the quality of the new iPhone's a lot nicer, but I guess for me it just really illustrates that you can use the tools that you have. We don't all have really nice cameras and giant macro lenses, and I also have them and do use them, but I find my default is always going for what I have on me, and that's usually my iPhone and my little screw-on macro lens. And so, yeah, I just still think, you know, that kind of holds up, even though it's quite an old iPhone. And I think part of that is that, you know, in terms of tips, I'm jumping around a bit, but in terms of tips for this, it's like locking your focus is really helpful when using the iPhone, when it's sort of all automated, or using an app that has control over your focus and your lighting. But if you're not running with a high-end camera and a flash and a diffuser, that you need to work with the light you've got. And so I won't bother trying to shoot when it's not. And so I'm going to just switch it up and show you another video, because I love this little blue banded bee. Filming bees is just like, it's just part of my everyday existence. Like, I live in a caravan in a paddock, and the toilet's across the other side of the paddock, and there's a flower garden in the middle. And I basically was walking through the garden on the way to the bathroom, had to run back and get my phone because I ran into this bee. So here's a still that I captured with a blue banded that we found in the house one day. Yeah, a lot of capturing bees, I think, is that what was mentioned before. It's like getting to know the behavior, getting kind of down and dirty in amongst it, you know, sitting out there for hours and hours. And yeah, I really have done a lot of that. I would just show one more image. I'm not sure what my timing is like. This was my little COVID lockdown friend. And I was in lockdown, and my brother and his friend, who's the beekeeper that works for us, came and dropped off my beehives because I was not with my beehives. And so then I was able to go down and open the hives and film and take photos of my bees. And so I just thought this was such a little magical kind of moment to capture during that time, of this little bee being like, hey. And again, this is just, yeah, on my iPhone, with this is with a moment macro lens attached to the front. And again, it's locking that focus, it's good lighting, it's taking quite a lot of photos. And I think when people are beginning, that's another thing that I would say. It's like, take lots of photos, but then go through and look and learn from what you've taken, and really kind of critique your work. Because you'll oh yeah, I didn't quite nail the focus on the eye for that one, and you know, you definitely start to learn and grow just by doing, but not just doing and not sort of looking at it and checking it over and kind of learning from the process. This is something that I make for Flowhive, and I make hundreds and hundreds of videos every year for Flowhive, but this is another one of lots of native pollinators from around the world. So yeah, basically, I just absolutely and totally and utterly besotted by bees, and hope to spend the rest of my life documenting bees and pollinators in slow motion. That's my goal.
It sounds like you've got the perfect job in the world, doing what you love. And getting paid to do what you love. You know, what better way is there? That's just fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and it was fantastic to have a different perspective. And it was also great because one of the questions that had come through was talking about how expensive a lot of the equipment is, and so you've really covered and spoken to that other side of using what you've got. And so we can talk a bit more about that in the panel when we have some questions. So that's fantastic. Thank you. We'll get you back in a while. I want to go now to Aaron, Aaron Molenkamp. Now, I've only met Aaron quite recently, and when I was looking around trying to find someone who could be a judge for our bee photographic competition, my brother-in-law actually had said, "What about this person? I've struck gold," he said. And put me on to Aaron's Nightfall Photography website. And I had a look and I thought, oh my goodness, how is it we haven't heard of this person? So I managed to get in contact with Aaron with the help of Jared, actually. So there was a little bit of, around the traps trying to get on to Aaron. And when I did, Aaron was just so generous with his time and just said, yep, love bees, love what you're doing, anything I can do to help, more than happy. And that was really, really good of him, especially considering he didn't know we were going to have nearly 700 photos that he was going to have to go through as judge. So Aaron's a professional photographer. He does a whole lot of work. He's done work with BBC Earth projects and with Australian Geographic. So look, welcome. Thank you so much. And we've asked you to share a few of your, before we get on to talking about the award-winning the photos, we want to hear from you and see your 3 favourite photos. And I think when I said that, you said, how on earth can I pick 3?
Oh, no, it's pretty easy. I'll start from when I first started, but I'll just tell you, like, I'm self-taught photographer. I live in Bathurst, New South Wales, just over the Blue Mountains. I started as a photographer back in 2013 when I did some travelling. And then when I come home, I was introduced to a bloke and he told me to get a macro lens. So I got that and I just started shooting macro in my backyard. And then I just started just doing the normal thing, bugs here, bugs there. And then I got really interested in in-flight photography and all that, but you'll see a few photos of that down the road. So, and then one thing led to another, and then I got noticed by Nikon Australia and met with Nikon Australia, and I'm a Z creator with those guys and also a Nikon lecturer. So I teach photography for Nikon Australia. Been featured on a few magazines right through the world and whatever for some of my photos. But first of all, the gear that I'll show you. So I'm a Nikon shooter. It's a bit of the gear that I use. So I use the Z50. At the moment, I'm on contract to use a 50mm lens for a Nikon Australia so that I can do some work for them with this particular thing. I use a Nissi close-up lens on the end of it. Most of my stuff's flash photography now. I do some natural light, but most flash, and I use a diffuser. With the diffuser, I highly recommend this piece of kit, but you'll see what I mean in some of the stuff. So that's what I use. Righto, we're getting some photos and I'll show you a few tips that I like to understand. So the first photo, this is when I first got into it, and I was always intrigued with in-flight photography. So this is one of the first, really, when I got into in-flights, and it's a honeybee going up. So not much post-processing with this guy. This is done with a 200mm lens and all natural lighting. But the idea was with this particular one, I loved how it come up onto the flower like that. So the bit of yellow behind the back's actually an Otto bin. So I thought to myself in the background, I just need to lighten up that flower. So sometimes I put little things behind it. So way back in the distance, there's an Otto bin there with yellow lids. So that's one of my favorite photos. And that's what really started getting me noticed by Nikon, was particularly these photos like that. But it's one of my favorites. It's just so beautiful and soft, and, it's just how it should be, you know what I mean? I think it was done there. It's a 200mm lens. If you can understand this particular shot of this blue banded bee, it's basically, if you had a look at my camera, so I've actually got, with the blue banded bees, I actually get the bee, if you could see my camera, around about in here now. So that's not cropped much at all. That's very close to where, but I basically get over the blue banded bees like that in flight. So that's one of my most favourite blue banded bees. But I actually I travel to Queensland for 6 weeks of the year. So I do from the end of December, right up until February, and I'd capture blue-banded bees, all the native bees, green carpenter bees, the big jumbo jet, the big queen carpenter bee, and all those type of things. So I take 60,000 photos when I'm in Queensland of all these bees. So, and then I come home and then I go through them all and give them to Nikon Australia. So that's that part. So you can see that one there. That's the blue-banded. So that's a fly on a just getting some, I don't know what it was doing or whatever, but it just shows you how important flies are, believe it or not, to our pollination. So you can see how much he's got a bit of pollen. He's doing a bit of A and B in there, and that's done really with the same flash close up to it and all that. And sometimes I put something behind. If I get time, I put stuff behind it. So there's another one. So that really got noticed by Nikon, and I think BBC Earth in England and all that particular photo too. So that's natural light with a 200 mil in the done with the old D852. So in my local park here in Bathurst. So yeah, one of those shots you can fluke, you know what I mean? But you get good after it a while, and I'll show you a few tips of what I like to do in my life. So shoot a lot. That's the number one tip as a macro photographer. So the old saying, practice makes perfect, particularly in macro photography. So aim for the eyes. So you always try to aim for the eyes of your subject. And that's the first thing you will look at. And I take multiple images and always check on your camera for the sharpness. And I use like I said, the Nikon Z, which is a mirrorless camera, and it actually has focus peaking on it, so it actually highlights the bug. So it helps you. But most of the new mirrorless all have that. Also background. So it depends on what I'm after, you know what I mean, and how I want to do it. Like I like to have things that pop and to be noticed. So I always try to capture my subject for great background, because it really explain like pops. So if I can't get it, well then I'll try to do something about it, you know what I mean, if I get time, you know what I mean. So I carry a clamp, you know what I mean. I use a bit of a clamp, so I've clamped something behind the flowers or something, like whatever I can do, depending on what I'm after. So sometimes I use natural, whatever I want to do. So that's what I like to do, and it makes a big notice of big difference of how your photo looks. This is probably one of the most important parts of my macro photography. It's my 2 Ps, rightio. It's persistence and patience. Now you need a hell of a lot of this, I'll tell you that now. But don't be disappointed when you fail at first. Eventually you will succeed. And I can't stress as much as a macro photographer, practice makes perfect, you know what I mean? My in-flights were a bit hard when I first started, but I can nail them within a couple of clicks now, you know what I mean? But it just takes practice and you learn it, rightio. And this is where I've just jumped this one here for a minute, because this is where it comes into motion, the characters of your subject. So study the motion of your subject. So everyone asks me, I can't capture a bee going 100 miles an hour past me, rightio. But the bees, when they pollinate, they'll jump up in the air and they'll brush themselves or whatever, or blue bandeds will actually go into the flower and back out of the flower, into the flower. That's when I capture my subjects, you know what I mean? I just can't do it that way, rightio. So before I even take a photo, I will sit for half an hour and watch everything that's going on in the garden. And, you know, some bees won't be pollinating, some will be, and that's how I go from there. So don't waste your time trying to chase one bee around the garden if he's not going to do it for you, you know what I mean? You just got to find that right moment, and I'm guaranteeing you'll capture some amazing photographs. So just study the insect, and that's how it all starts. And the last one is the depth of field, rightio. Macro photography is really fine, rightio, but every camera has a sweet spot, as we've heard before in this. So I always like to find, some of my stilled stuff, I like to go about an f/22. I know that sounds weird, but I find my depth of field with an f/22 or an f/25 is really sharp. I can get the whole thing in focus, you know what I mean? And sometimes I use single shots, and sometimes I use multiple shots, rightio. So that's very important, that one too. So learn what your camera sweet spot is, but don't be afraid to go outside the f/11s and f/8s and all that, you know what I mean? I very rarely shoot f/8 myself, you know what I mean? f/11, f/13 for in-flights, and then for fixed stuff, it's mainly always f/22. And there, my settings, like I said, one to 160 to an ISO 250 and like I said, f22 for all my stilled stuff. And I use flash, so it gives me a little bit more details. All right, so I think, is that about all you need to know from me?
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Aaron. We're getting a lot of tips and tools here. I might ask everyone to come back now. So Mirabai, Jared, Marama, if you'll just come back online and we'll go through some of these questions that have been coming in. So keep your questions coming in. We're going to spend probably 5-10 minutes or so going through these questions. Oh, you got the glass of wine out there, Jared. Good for you.
Thank you. Needed it.
Yeah.
Hand it over.
Is it champagne or is it?
No, it's a glass of
crack champagne a bit later. Red wine.
Glass of
Very
red
nice. Very nice. Okay, so first question for Marama was from Krista. Asking whether you use a tripod when you're out there? You're talking about groveling down in the dirt. I'm not sure you could manage a tripod with what you were describing.
Yeah, groveling down in the dirt and having to change positions frequently. I think no, I haven't been using tripod for my still photos. I've just started dabbling in video, for which, yes, I am using a tripod, but no, it's important to be able to, switch those angles, I think, often really quickly. So a tripod's just not work.
What about the others? Mira, do you use a tripod?
No, I very rarely use a tripod, but I've been filming for 15 years and I've done a lot of freehand. And so you kind of learn how to be your own tripod, essentially. Like, your arms are down by your side, your breathing is shallow, your points of, if you're using a bigger camera, you've got your 3 points of contact. And
what about a gimbal or something like that? What about a gimbal or something like that?
For certain things, yes. For me, especially using the iPhone, I want to be as nimble and as quick as I possibly can be. So yeah, it doesn't work for me to be on a tripod.
Jared?
I
guess that's one of the things about being low. You can have your elbows on the ground. You're pretty well supported and stable.
Mm-hmm.
Jared?
Someone wrote in here about I guess a monopod as well with that. I basically am a monopod. I am tall and skinny. So for myself, no, I don't use them. I like the rest of the other photographers here probably. I like to be mobile, and I'm not afraid to make those mistakes when taking the photos. You generally can see what you're taking when you look at the screen, so you just go with it.
What about you, Aaron? What's the on tripods?
My rule of thumb is the 200mm. I use 200mm for natural lighting. I'll be using a tripod for that. But most of my shots are all nowadays done handheld with my little camera. So yeah, if it's natural light with the longer lens, I'll use a tripod for like dragonflies and all that type of stuff, and like wasps and all that. But I can't, like I said, I just basically use that because I get, like I said, about that close from blue bandits. When I learn their flight patterns, I can get right into them. And they get to know me after 7 weeks too. So
on a first name basis.
Yeah.
So what about the type of macro lens that you're using? Is another question here from Lynn about the type of macro lens. I think that was for Marama at the beginning.
Oh yeah, mine is a Canon 100mm, 1 to 2.8. It's the cheaper version of the Canon 100mm. You can get one with image stabilization as well, which is a heap more expensive, but I'm not ready to lay out that much money yet. This one was quite expensive enough.
Working with what you've got, as Mira was saying before. Jared?
It's still a fairly pricey lens, though.
No, I actually don't use macro at all. Might get into it in the future, but nothing at the moment.
Mira?
Yeah, I've used a number of different macro lenses. When I shoot with my Sony, I shoot with a Canon macro, and I actually now have a Sony 90mm macro. But on the iPhone, I originally used the Olo clip, and then I used another one, and that one stopped being made as well. So at the moment, I use the Moment lens, and it's a little prime macro lens. It's just about this big, and it clips onto the front of their special case on front of your lens. And I find that that's got the best quality of any of the macro lenses I've used for. But again, like Aaron was saying, how close he has to get. I have to be this close to the bee when I've got that macro lens on. You're right up in its business.
Yeah, exactly.
Or that's how it's got a really short depth of short focal length.
So Aaron, what do you?
So I basically use what I'm contracted to use. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Nikon's. I really love the 105. It's one of my favourite lenses on mine. But I'm on contract to use a 50mm now. I'm tell you what, that's straight. I go to Queensland with a 50mm. That means I basically need to be about that far away from a blue banded. So it's going to be a very challenging 6-7 weeks. So I use the 105 and the 50mm at the moment. And something else I highly recommend is the Nissi close-up lens. I'm not selling any products or whatever, but this particular thing, you can mount it on any lens, I'm telling you now, and it will become a macro lens. So it's an amazing thing to screw. It just screws on top of your lens, and it gives you magnification as a macro lens. But I use it so I can get more magnification, because I don't want to crop too much when I do my photos, you know what I mean? Because I lose all my details. So I try to do as much less cropping I can. So that's why that's on the front of my lens.
Okay, thank
cool.
you.
I've been wanting to try that actually.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I think they do some clip-on stuff too. I think so.
I wrote it down. So
yeah,
I've been eyeing them off for a while.
If ever, like I said, I'm not trying to sell much, but if ever any of you guys are interested, I can do a good price for him or whatever, because I actually sell them. But I know it sounds like I'm doing a pitch.
What a salesman!
Not trying.
But I'm happy to look after anyone. So just hit me a message or whatever, and I'm happy to look after you, something like that. Send it to you, whatever, for a good price. You know what I mean? But it is, I'm telling you now, it'll make a big difference to your standard lens, Jared. So.
yeah, I'll give it a crack. I'll be sending a message. Don't worry.
Money back if you don't like it, mate.
All right, easy done deal.
So I'll go to the question about the black. How did you create the black background? It shows the bee details very well. Now I think that was early on, so I think that might have been.
Yeah, I think that was my my Hemi-Riser photo.
So
stark black background with the black and yellow bee looking so tiny. That just basically happens, I think, if you're shooting with flash. It brings out the subject. If you don't have anything too busy, or it's a fair distance to whatever is coming up next in the background. The flash doesn't pick up anything in them; it just picks up the bee, what you're focusing on. So by default, the rest of the photo is black. But the photo saw with the muted colours in the background are a whole nother level of beautiful. But yeah, sometimes I think that just the stark black background works nicely.
Yeah, it looks fabulous.
So yeah, I think it's about the distance between your subject and whatever else is behind it.
Yep. Okay. There's a question here for Jared. How would you rate the post-production needed for solid bee photos?
I guess most of the photographers here would probably understand this, that when you're taking a photo, we're taking a series of photos, there may be an image that you take at that period of time that you're going to go, I need to make sure I remember this number on the camera because I want to go back and have a look at that. And that's generally the rule of thumb with me is I'll be taking a series of photos and I'll go, hey, I just actually got that photo. That is exactly what I wanted it. So I'll pull out my phone, write down the number, and then I'll go back through and generally look at images 3 before and 3 after, and then select that image and then edit it.
Great, thank you. I'm just looking through these questions here. Now there's one here. I'm not sure whether you might not be prepared to give share your secrets here. There's a question here. Can we sell bee pictures? And if yes, then please suggest some sites. Anyone prepared to share any insights on that one, or is that commercial in confidence?
I struggle to sell my own images just because of I just don't want to get rid of them. That's personal.
Yeah, I've thought about setting up a stock site to sell some imagery, because I often get asked for video but I still yet to get around to doing that. I have currently made a short film, all shot on iPhone, that's doing the film festival circuit. It's just 5 minutes, but yeah, it's about the inner workings of a beehive.
Aaron, any tips on that front?
I was trying to sell them on a website, but the cost is just like, people just don't understand the cost that goes into an image, you know what I mean? So what I've decided to do, I put mine up as a digital download so people can download it and go and print them off themselves. So it costs you what, anywhere from $15 to like $35. You just download it, off you go to the store, and you can print it and do whatever you want with it. So I've sold a few that way, and I'm happy for people to use my license and do that way. That's like, you just can't justify selling a print for $160 to $200. People go, no way. Just give them the option, and you just digital download it, full quality. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's great advice, and I think that's what was being looked for. Look, I think in the name of time, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to just thank Marama and thank Jared, and you can disappear into the background while we now move into the part where we look at the competition, and I'll keep our judges here. So Mira and Aaron were very generous in agreeing to be the judges. So if you want to give it maybe a little bit of an overview in just very broad general terms what you thought, and we'll go to the specifics in a moment.
Oh yeah, I just think it's incredible. I mean, I sat down for many hours going through all the photos. I thought it was going to be an easy job. And then I looked at them all and went, wow, I better get a few more coffees into me. So I just left the coffee machine on and went through them all. But I was just blown away. The quality, really great. And like bees are really close to my heart. That's where I first got into macro photography. And like I said, some of the stuff is just amazing. And it was like, how do you pick a winner? You know what I mean? There was about at least 30 really top-notch stuff there. So like everyone's just done a fantastic job. And I love seeing photos like that, you know what I mean? It's amazing. So well done, guys.
Yeah, well done to everyone. Yeah, it was such a, I sort of started flicking through, and then, several hours later I resurfaced. I just sort of color coded as I went, luckily, some of the favorites. But yeah, the quality, there's some really amazing imagery and some really nice sort of diversity as well. In the different types of pollinators and bees.
All right, so we are now moving into to talk about the winners of the photographic competition. And so the judges are going to talk through what they're seeing. So to start with, I just want to absolutely acknowledge and thank the sponsors that allowed this photographic competition to go ahead. So we came up with this mad idea that we'd like to run a photographic competition only probably 6 weeks ago. It wasn't very long ago. And so I was charged with the responsibility to make a few phone calls. So I think I made 3 phone calls, and who was the first one. They said, yeah, I'll give you a couple of $1,000. That's fine. So they were very generous in taking providing $2,000 for the open winner competitions prizes. And then Beechworth Honey very kindly said, yeah, I'm happy to provide $1,000 for the school prizes. So they became the sponsors of the school prize. Phoned Rotarians for Bees, and they said, yeah, we'll sponsor the webinar. So they came up with $500 for that. And then I've also made a phone call to Burt's Bees, and they said, yep, really happy to provide a whole lot of hampers, some packs for the honorary mentions. So we've got $5,500 worth of prizes here. So, it's only possible when people put their hands in the pockets. So it's pretty exciting. So we'll hopefully I don't let anything go. We're going to start with the primary school award. And we're going to start, the next slide I'm going to show is an honorary mention, and then I'll hand over to the judges for them to give their commentary on for the primary school honorary mention goes to Rory Glenn, and I'll let you do those announcements.
Yeah, I do really love this photo, because this is how I got into macro photography with in-flights myself. So yeah, such a great photo, you know what I mean? It's just a shame it wasn't a little bit more front on, you know what I mean? But you can't, this is a flying subject, so you hope for the best, you know what I mean? But for a young'un, that's a great start, you know what I mean? And I love the beautiful details on it. I mean, if it would have been a little bit straighter, he could have won National Geographic with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We're blown away with that. I think the comment that the two judges had said was that, you know, would have loved to have awarded this first, but just wasn't quite sharp enough, or just it was a couple of things that just wasn't quite there. But a real honourable mention for this photograph.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Like I said, it's just lovely, you know what I mean? And next time, you know, it could be around the other way and I'll win an award, you know what I mean? But yeah. Great.
So well done, Rory Glenn from Townsville Grammar School in
Rory.
Queensland. So the drum roll and the winning photograph for the primary school that will receive $500 for their primary school, it goes to Taylor Rickett, buzzing around from Frenchville State School in Queensland.
Absolutely beautiful.
So why was it that this one was the winning photograph from your judge's point of view?
I just think if ever you've taken a photo of a sunflower, they're quite big, you know what I mean? And it's quite a challenge just to get some of it in focus, you know what I mean? And I found the whole photo was in focus with the bee, you know what I mean? So, and it's like you can't do much of a composition with that particular photo, you know what I mean? So front on, and I just think it's been composed, and the lighting and the sharpness of the whole lot was lovely, you know what I mean? With the lovely blue around the top of it. So it's definitely a lovely a start to a macro career if that person wants to get into it, you know what I mean?
So well done, Taylor, and we will be in touch with you to organise getting your prize to your school. So well done, congratulations. So the next, we're going to move through, we're going to keep going through. So again, the prizes for the secondary school award are sponsored from Beechworth Honey. And so again, we're going to start with an honorary mention. So this was the honorary mention goes to Hannah Connolly from St Andrew's Christian College in Victoria. So a bit of feedback on this one.
Yeah, no, it's another lovely photo, you know what I mean? And it looks like natural lighting to me, and the person's got the whole lot in focus. Yeah, it's just such a good photo. And like I said, the background, it's composed lovely, you know what I mean? Maybe if the twig down the side could have been, but you know, these are macro photos when you're trying to take a photo, you know what I mean? So they're then minor points off it, you know what I mean? But all in all, a really good photo and a great start to someone that wants to start getting into macro photography.
Fantastic. So an honorary mention to Hannah.
Yeah, right.
And we'll be able to get a little Burt's Bees pack off to Hannah. So the winner of the secondary school is actually Hannah again. So Hannah put in this photograph from St Andrew's Christian College in Victoria. So commentary, why was it that this was the winning photo?
Well, you know, sometimes unique photos come out and strike you, you know what I mean? I think this was about my third cup of coffee when I was into this one. But it's just something about it, you know what I mean? I don't know if Hannah's decided to take it through the way the lens is through there, or however she's done it, but I really love it because it's really light background. That bokeh's beautiful, but the whole flower and the bee is in focus. So she just nailed the particular focus on what she was looking at. But there's just something different about it being through the edge of the frame of the camera, which is, some people mightn't like that, but I just think it's unique, and it took me away. I really like it.
So they're our school winners, and congratulations to the schools and to the photographers, and we'll certainly be in touch, and we'll make some more promotion and stories about that and recognise them. So we're now going to go on to the open awards, and you know, I sat in on the discussion. I didn't have any influence, but I sat in on the discussions between Aaron and Mira and listening to them. And there were so many fantastic, you know, you can imagine going from nearly 700 photographs, and we asked, what we did, the process was we asked each of the judges to narrow it down from the field of 670 down to pick the top 10. So the ones that we're going to show now are not the ones that won, but they were in that top 10, top 12 that was selected. So we're going to go through, and you can give a little bit of a commentary on each of those. So the first honorary mention is to Bruce Malcolm from New South Wales with this photograph. So
this was definitely one of my favorites. And again, it was such a hard choice, but beautiful depth of field. I think sort of the color and the vibrance and that kind of warmth this photo portrays is really, it's a lot of fun, and it's really sort of engaging. And I think some of the, I don't know whether we're going to talk about constructive feedback or not.
You can, yep, absolutely. You can.
Yes, you know, because we were kind of having to narrow it down from so many, we had to get really kind of, you know, nitty-pitty, you know, nitpicking at it. And so some areas that could be kind of enhanced were that just the focus, as Aaron was saying before, like the eye is sort of the most important part, especially with bees. Could have just been a little sharper through that section. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
But overall, you know, a really beautiful image.
And, you know, I'd reiterate, all of these were the top 10, top 12. They were all really good photos. And so it was interesting to listen in on the conversation. So anything else you want to add on that, Aaron, or we'll go on to the next one?
No, I think you've nailed it. That's exactly what we talked about. Yeah, but it's a lovely photo.
So the next honourable mention is from Jane Frost in Queensland. And I would also add that as part of the process, we removed all of the identifiers from all of the photographs, so that when the judges looked through the 670 photos, there was no names on any of them. There are no identifiers whatsoever. So when we went to get to this, there was no knowledge, there was no judgment or bias from that point of view. So comments on this one?
It's just lovely, you know what I mean? I probably would have, I've started a little bit critical first. Maybe cropped in a little bit too far, maybe. I'm not sure how much it was cropped, but if it was sitting back a little bit, because it's just not sharp right through the whole photo. But so if it would have been taken a little bit back and not cropped so much, it wouldn't have shown up so much. So if you ever taken a photo and you want to do it really close, just make sure everything's in focus, you know what I mean? That's the only points I take off. But all in all, it's a lovely photo. I mean, if you can ever get one of these guys and get one taken of them, you're going well. So you want to, I don't think I've caught one of these yet myself. So.
Oh, the neon cuckoos. Yeah, I captured my first one earlier last year. I'd never seen them before.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one then. So the next honourable mention is, again, Bruce Malcolm. Congratulations, Bruce. So comments on this one?
Yeah, this was another, I really love bees in flight, and I think it's such a it's a challenging thing to capture. And I love how sort of fuzzy and cute and fluffy these guys, or these girls, shall I say, look. And yeah, I really like the focus on the bees. I think that some of the critical was just, you know, a little bit with that framing. I just would have liked to see a little bit more of that second bee. And yeah, there's a little bit of could be a little bit sharper in places, but you know, a really beautiful, capturing, quite striking image. Again, another one of my favorites.
Yeah, and like I said, you can actually see the two eyes nearly in focus, which is a pretty good effort in flight, you know what I mean? The front one's just a 15th off, but that's macro photography. But all in all, like I said, a little bit more better framing, but you can't, it's a toss of a coin when you're taking a photo like that one, you know what I mean?
Like,
so,
yeah, in that
fantastic
moment.
Fantastic to get two in focus.
Yeah, okay, fantastic.
So I'll keep going on to the next one. So here's the next one. So an honourable mention, and the name was just Sputnik from South Australia.
Yeah, another blue banded, but they're a lovely thing to capture. And like I said, if you can get, like I said, that most of that's sharp, you know what I mean? So it's a lovely effort, you know what I mean? And we're all different. Some people like natural lighting. I'm a bit of a diffuser boy, you know what I mean? But all in all, I think that's a great start to a that's how I first started doing blue banded bees myself. So it's a great effort, you know what I mean? And like I said, most of it's in focus. There's not much I would do with that photo, except maybe the lighting's a little bit hot, but that's just part of learning macro photography, and depends on what you got on you, you know what I mean? So I don't know what it was taken with or whatever. So like I said, it could be a phone or whatever, but at least they're having a crack at it, you know what I mean? I just love, it's just a good photo, you know what I mean?
It's lovely, and the eye, just the really crispy eye.
Yeah, the eyes.
And it's a male.
Yeah,
it's got the 5 blue bands.
Yeah, good. You're all over it. That's it.
The girls have 4.
Yeah. It's amazing.
There you go. All right. And Jared's just sent a message saying he knows the photographer for this one. So
All right, cool.
there
Oh,
you go.
cool.
So here's the next honourable mention, which is Michael Ellerveld from Tasmania. So we're sharing the states, sharing the love around the states. So some commentary on this one.
I do love the detail in the pollen and capturing that
Yeah.
pollen. I'm actually not sure what exactly the insect is. Do you know what it is?
Is it a mealy? Is it a mealie bug? Is it a mealy bug
yeah,
or something
maybe.
like that?
Well, at this point, I would encourage everybody to go to the Australian pollinatorcount.au website and download the learner guide, and that will help you be able to identify this particular insect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just like how I like it's all in focus, you know what I mean? And it might be a little bit too sharp, maybe, but I don't know. Like I just love the way it's composed, you know what I mean? To get a little bug like that on top. So I love the colours too. The colours are striking. I'm a big red and yellow boy, you know what I mean? So if you ever want to impress me, just use red and yellow.
Yeah. It's the composition is really striking.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So the next honourable mention is Merrick Bailey from New South Wales. So another banded Amygdala. And again, you can see the bands are not that blue, which is why we're saying banded Amygdala rather than a blue banded bee.
Yeah, that's right.
They're more silver, aren't they? There's a tiny tinge of blue on those. Comments on this one?
I mean, it's a beautiful, like, you know, the mid-flight capture. It's you know, well done on that to Merrick. I love it when you catch them with their little tongue kind of folded under. I think it's such a sweet you know, posture for them to be in. And it's really nice. It's really sharp. I think we spoke about kind of, you know, personal preference, but sort of wanting it to be a little bit more center frame, so to kind of draw you in more. Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure how much it's been cropped, but I'd say it's been cropped a little bit. So you could even it. Like, that's personal preference. Some people might like it like coming up like that. You know what I mean? So we're all different. We're all artists in a certain way. So, but I'm a big center boy too. You know what I mean? I like to see something where it should be in the center of the photo when I'm looking at it. So, but it's a cracking shot.
Yeah.
Awesome capture.
I actually had to check my copyright because I actually signed the back of the bee somewhere, but it's got my signature on it, so I thought it was a copy of one of mine. But anyway,
that's how good you thought it was.
Yeah, beautiful photo.
All right, so the next one. So again, another honourable mention, and again, Bruce Malcolm. So, you know, I think it's really important to acknowledge all of these photos were unnamed, so the judges did not know whose photos were coming up into the top. So Bruce has got a lot of photos in the top 10, top 12.
Yeah.
Well done, Bruce.
Yeah, awesome, Bruce. But that's, like I said, it's another striking photo. And did we ever find out what it is?
No, and Bruce is online at the moment. In his notes, Bruce had written, who knows what it is, it might be a fly perhaps. And I had an entomologist have a look at it and thought that it may be some kind of cricket type insect possibly, but we really weren't quite sure. Clearly it's a pollinator.
Yes, it's a very, very, very happy pollinator covered in pollen.
He might actually fallen into the flower and he got back out, went, geez, now I'm a bit sticky now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's so great about this photo is you just keep looking at it and going, what am I actually looking at? And that's part of the appeal on that one, really.
Yeah, and it's
definitely.
It's 3D when you first look at it, because it's such well. I'd love to know the f-stop that was used. Must have been like he's got it so nailed the focus on the front of it, but it's just so beautiful and blurry in the background. You know what I mean? It's such a striking image.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really the composition of it as well, and just that depth of field is just perfect to make it really pop.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so fabulous.
Stunning.
So let's see, another honourable mention, this amazing photo from Mark Smith in Victoria. So comments from the judges.
I think it's a pumpkin flower. Yeah, look, I think we both really liked this one. You know, just the pollen covered bee. It's such a sort of awesome moment to capture. Just was wondering, you know, was it a little too cropped? The quality of the digital image was a little bit low, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the only thing. If it was done with a bit more power, I'm not sure how much it was cropped or whatever they used. If it was done with a bit more juice, you know what I mean, it would have been amazing. Like I don't think I've seen a few, but you actually nearly count all the balls, pollen balls on that thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, including the 3 on a little antenna.
It's just such an amazing photo. I love it. One of those myself one day. They used to have in my local park flowers like that. You put lots of pollen out. So, but they haven't put them in since the droughts. We don't have a drought here. It's so wet.
Yeah, look, it looks a lot like a pumpkin.
Yeah, it does actually.
And they do produce a lot of pollen.
Okay, so I'll go to the next one.
Beautiful image.
Beautiful photo.
So well done.
there's so many. Yeah, well done to everyone. Like it's just there's so
unreal.
many amazing images. It was
absolutely
definitely a hard.
And even lots of great images in the ones that didn't make the last 10 or 12. You know, there's so many that could have been in this top field. So the next one I'll go on to an honourable mention from Craig Lochell, I think, from Victoria. So commentary on this one.
Yeah, I'm really drawn to this one, and I think I really like the composition of it, but also it's really nice and crisp in focus. I also really like that the little pollen pants are nice and on display. You can see the beginnings of their pollen pants.
Yeah,
and just pants. The vibrant purple kind of color really pops with the colors of the bee.
Yeah, one thing I do like the fact that it's composed lovely, you know what I mean? That's how you want to see a honeybee, you know what I mean, at work, you know what I mean, with a little bits of pollen in it. But take props off, it's not overly processed either, or if it's straight off the camera or whatever. So hats off there, you know what I mean? Because one thing with honeybees, you can actually over process them too, which you'll get a lot of hairs and all that to stand up on them. So yeah, lovely general photo, this one.
Yeah, it's got that kind of natural kind of look to it, which is soft. Which I kind of like that. I think, as you saw some of my photos, like that's my I prefer that kind of slightly softer, natural.
I'll go on to the next one. So this is another honourable mention, and once again, Bruce Malcolm. So I think this is 4 now Bruce had in the top field.
Bruce nailed it.
Yeah, Bruce.
And so the judges did not know. The judges did not know this.
No, we're finding out right now. So
this particular photo, I really loved it. You know what I mean? It's a magic. I told him like a cute magic photo. You know what I mean? But I mean, I would have tried to straighten it a whisker, but that's just personal. We're all artists, like I said. We all have ideas how we want it, and maybe just wanted to leave it natural because that's the way it was flowing. But yeah, and I just love the fact that he's got the bee totally sharp there and the whole lot, and it's just such a cute, good photo.
Yeah, it does have that kind of magical quality to it. I think of Gumnut Babies.
Yeah. May Gibbs.
yeah. So beautiful image.
Snuggle pup, well done, Bruce. I'm going to peep out the corner.
Yeah, beautiful, Bruce.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to the next honourable mention, and this is from Robert Geraghty, is it, from New South Wales? So commentary from the judges.
I'm a big fan. I love wasps, so maybe I'm a bit biased on wasps, but I just really like the fact that the person's Robert's got it in focus, you know what I mean? The nail of wasp in focus, you're going pretty good, you know what I mean? And everything about it's a great macro. The wasp sharp, the flower it's leaning on sharp, and the beautiful bokeh in the background, you know what I mean? So I really like this particular photo. I don't know why, but I mean, I know why, but it's just beautiful. Like I said, it's a great macro photo.
Yeah, it's really striking and quite unusual. Really sort of, I didn't end up in my shortlist, but as soon as you put it in, I thought, oh, wow, like, how did I miss this, you know, going through so many of them.
Okay, and so we'll go to the next honourable mentions. There's another honourable mention another one from Michael Ellerveld from Tasmania. So I think this is the second one in the top 10 from Michael. So well done, Michael. Commentary from the judges.
Oh, little leaf cutter. I love these bees. It's quite unusual the way it's sort of up, you know, you kind of like, is it up the right way? But something about it really caught my eye. And, you know, he's done incredibly well at getting, you know, the flower and the bee all in nice crisp focus, the eye, and then the pollen on its hairs on its belly. Yeah, just something about it really really captured me.
Yeah, it's the same as me. It's struck, like I said, it struck beautifully with me. I mean, I'm a big fan of the leaf cutter too. They're one of my favorites, you know what I mean? Such a cute little guy, you know what I mean? Being upside down, and it's all sharp, you know what I mean? And you know, it's got a different type of background to it, but a very natural background. He hasn't overcooked it or anything like that. So it's just beautiful and natural. And I love that too in that particular photo.
So the next photo is going to be an exciting one. So the next photo is actually going to be the People's Choice Award. So this is one that wasn't considered by the judges, but this one was a very clear winner in the People's Choice Award. And so the next photograph will come with a $500 cash prize. So congratulations to Ricky McTavish from Queensland for the People's Choice winner. And I haven't got that very centered, I don't think. The photo is a little bit bigger. That's just how I've got it. Commentary from the judges.
Oh, it's lovely, lovely image. Definitely one of my favorites as well. Well done, People's Choice. Oh, the little, you know, I call them the TCBs. Just the movement and the color and the contrast and the crispness of the bee. It's just like, it's kind of like all those magical kind of moments have just lined up in terms of where they've gotten the focus, like on that little bit of stamen, or the anther on the end of the stamen, that, you know, she's nipping at the pollen to collect the pollen. Yeah, I love this. Really, really love this.
So Ricky's actually online tonight, so I can hear the screams from Queensland. You know, I'm down in Victoria, so Ricky's there going, yay!
Well done, Ricky. It's,
yeah, good on you, Ricky. It's just such a striking photo. You know, that's an album. That put that in your album, that one, because you know that you nailed it.
Absolutely.
Definitely, and they're a teeny tiny bee. They're a challenge.
Yeah,
so well done.
Absolutely. So we're now heading towards the runner-up. So the next photograph is the runner-up, and the runner-up is going to receive $500 from iWoohoo. So thank you, iWoohoo. And so the runner-up photograph, as awarded by the judges, is, drum roll, Melanie Hampel from Victoria. And Melanie. This was it Walking on Fire? It was forgotten the title of it.
Something like that. And it's exactly how it looks like it's come out of fire, you know what I mean? This is one of my favorites out of the whole lot.
So why? Tell us why.
It might be a little bit too sharp, but you know, like maybe, like I said, I don't know the technique behind the photo, but as far as, it's just a striking photo. I mean, if I could nail a photo like that with a bee coming out, I'd be happy myself. But it's just got a beautiful bokeh. I love the bokeh behind. It's so soft behind. And the bee is just super sharp, you know what I mean? Like I said, maybe a 15th too sharp, but it's just a great photo, you know what I mean? It's coming out of the needles like that, you know what I mean? And it just the moment's there, you know what I mean? And they've captured it, you know what I mean? It's one of the first photos when I was going through that went, wow, geez, I hope they're not all like this one, you know what I mean? They were pretty good all the way. Just something about it, like I said, that just got the bee so sharp, but the soft background and the way it's coming out of there like that, you know, and the motion that it's been caught in.
Yeah, it's like really captured that moment and that motion, but in such a crisp way. But also it's quite sort of has this very atmospheric kind of vibe to it with all the tones, which I really like as well.
Yeah, magnificent bee photo.
And the winner for the award, who's going to receive $1,500 courtesy of iWoohoo, is Erica Siegel from Queensland.
Oh, Erica!
Isn't that? So congratulations, Erica. So commentary from the judges. So why was it that this photograph was judged as the winner?
It's such a striking image. For me, it just, all the elements come together in this image in such a beautiful way. You've got this beautiful leaf cutter collecting pollen, incredibly crisp and perfect focus. And then, you know, the flower and the kind of framing and the softness around, and this little ant on this other flower. I mean, yeah, it's just sort of, it's captured a magic moment, but it's just in this it's just such a beautiful, just as soon as I saw this image, I was just absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I don't have to say enough. You've said everything that needs to be said about that photo. It's just such a ripper.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a ripper, definitely. And Erica is an avid bee photographer. I know her from online.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen all her imagery on some of the Facebook groups and stuff. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
look, really well deserved. And look, thank you so much to all of the people that submitted applications for this. You know, it's been just incredible. We ran this for the first time, not knowing what was going to happen, and we've been really delighted. And I think the sense within the team, within Ween Bee Foundation and all the partners, is we'd like to run it again. So we'll have to see whether the judges are happy to go again, or how we share this around for next time round. But look, we've gone on a lot longer than I expected, but I really wanted to give everyone the time to see all these amazing photographs. We'll certainly do what we can to share them around so people can see a lot of the other photographs as well. Congratulations to all of the winners, the runners-up, and congratulations to everyone who's submitted. The field really was a fabulous range of photographs. Thank you to our sponsors, to iWoohoo, to Beechworth Honey, to Burt's Bees, who provided the honorary mentions, to Rotarians for Bees. Look, thank you so much, and thank you to our judges who really put a lot of time in. So many people to thank. I hope you've really enjoyed it. This evening we'll video this, we'll put into a video so people can watch it online as well. And look, keep enjoying Australian Pollinator Week. There's lots of events still to be run. There's the pollinator count to be part of, and you know, I'll give another flag for our Discover Bees campaign, our campaign to discover and document all of Australia's remaining native bee species in the next decade. So we're really keen to raise enough money to see that happen. So thanks everyone for being involved. Any last words from judges?
Oh no, thanks for asking me. You know what I mean? It's it was such great fun in being involved. You know what I mean? It's a big part of my life. I love my bees. You know what I mean? And to watch people take photos and macro photography, that's how I started, and see some of these photos, it's just been amazing. So thanks for asking me.
It's a pleasure, and we know how to contact you now, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, always available for guys like you. You know what I mean? It's such a fantastic cause, and it's so good what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
definitely. And
Mira,
thank you.
Any final words from you?
Oh, look, anything that promotes awareness of bees and how incredible they are is very close to my heart. So always happy to be part of anything that's to do with that. And yeah, just get out there and enjoy taking photos.
Yeah.
What a great way to end. Thanks everyone for joining.